everybody, I want to talk to you today about trimming your Supertunia baskets. It is September right now, but I should have probably trimmed these in July, but I didn't want to because they just were so beautiful. I just couldn't stand to cut them down. Next year, I'll probably cut them down in July, even though I don't want to, so that in September I don't have to cut them down again. It doesn't take very long for them to come back. In about a week and a half, they'll be flush with blooms again. We're looking at a heat wave of 100 degrees again, which is pretty hot for September here. But I've decided it's the perfect time that I'm going to trim it down. These actually really do like the heat and the sun, so it doesn't stress them out. And they'll be happy actually with that heat. So I think it's a perfect time for me to trim them down and let them get that sun and that hot weather that it likes, and it'll push those buds out. There is not really a science to trimming these. You don't have to be too particular. They say that you shouldn't cut it back by more than a third. I have cut mine back by more than a third. I have some planters that were all the way to the ground that I trimmed back to only about 8 inches long. They did just fine. Flushed the blooms, very full and beautiful when they came back. You can see with this planter, this is I think an 11-inch hanging basket that I brought home that I put in a 20-inch hanging basket. Ended up being too heavy for me to hang, but I just put it on this stand and it's done just fine. And it's just gotten really, really big. And I really want this thing to last me through November, which it will. And I just think it needs cleanup. So I'm going to show you how I do it and how easy it is. People get so nervous and people hate to cut off the blooms. I know it's always hard to cut things off that are really pretty already, but it will be even more beautiful in 2 weeks when this whole thing is flushed back out with blooms again. And so, unlike a rose bush where you should be particular, some kinds of perennials and shrubs, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to put it to the length that I want. And I'm using scissors. It's just fine to use scissors on these. Make sure that they're clean so you're not transferring any kind of gunk on it. You can use trimmers if you have some nice trimmers, but this actually works really well. In this basket, there is Supertunia fuchsia, bubblegum, and silverberry, and they are all vistas, so they get very big, as you can see. But I'm just cutting, and I'm going to go from the bottom and cut more off down there. And when I planted these up and I transplanted them into the bigger pot, I did not add any flowers. This is the literal basket, exact same plants that were in the small hanging basket. If I had left it in the small hanging basket, it would be big, but it would not be nearly this size. So if you want a bigger plant, when you bring home a basket, put it in a bigger basket, a bigger container, a bigger pot, and your plant will get bigger. These Supertunias are just fantastic for that. And I do know some people who will bring a basket, put it in a bigger pot, and then add some around the outside to add different colors, and they do just fine too, but I did nothing with this one and it's just phenomenal. All right. So sad to see all these colors go, but I promise it's gonna just be awesome. And some see, I just pulled this one off. It's okay. It's not a big deal. It'll fill in. If you pull too hard, you might break a few off and they'll turn brown. You'll see it. You can pull them out. This one is one that happened. It'll be fine. And they usually get some brown stuff on the bottom. You can see down here. This part doesn't get any sun. It's been all covered up. So I'm just going to cut those out. Big haircuts on the back. This This basket doesn't have many blooms on the back because it was facing towards the deck and actually shoved into a corner where it got no light on the back side. So there's foliage and it's grown, but it didn't really get any flowers because it hasn't had the light it wants. Do for now. I get a little trim happy sometimes. And I might trim a little more, I might not. But as you can see, we cut a lot off of this plant. And it still has some blooms that were tucked inside. And those are fine, we'll just leave it. So we'll make sure that we water it. It is going to be really hot. Typically I would do this and shoot it with some fertilizer to just like give it a boost to push those blooms. I'm probably going to wait a couple of days because I don't like to fertilize my plants when it's 100 degrees outside. But when that heat wave breaks, I'll just water it the next couple of days and then I'll give it some fertilizer, and in a couple of weeks this bad boy is going to be even more full with blooms, thicker with blooms. And be super happy, and it will last me all the way until the first frost. And if it's a light frost, sometimes it lasts past that, which is awesome. So I will check back in and I will show you what this looks like in a couple weeks after it pushes those blooms back out. But don't be afraid to trim them. They're just gonna give you love back when you do it, and you don't have to be worried about doing it right or wrong. You just pick your spot, cut it, and they'll come back.